Listen, I know I look like Benson Boone right now, and I don't really mind. He's a good looking guy.
Almost.
So let's get one thing straight. In order to make music in this day and age, you really just need 3 things. First, you need to make sound, then you need to get that sound onto a computer, and then you need to get that sound out of the computer. Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3. I'm going to give you guys 3 different studio setups, ranging from the most affordable option I could possibly think of, and all the way up to my current setup, which has taken about 15 years to put together. I'll give you guys multiple options for each one of these 3 steps. That way you can upgrade wherever you feel like you need to, and use this video to custom tailor your perfect home studio setup based on your budget and your needs. I'm also going to do my best to only recommend gear that I've personally used and has stood the test of time in my own life, so I can recommend it in good faith. Also, at the end of the video, I'll give you guys some fun optional stuff like MIDI keyboard options or external desktop monitor options, and even some room treatment ideas for dialing in the sound of your room. I'm also going to do my best to link all this stuff in the description. That way, if you see something that you feel like you want, you can just click one of the links and get it right away. I also just became a Sweetwater affiliate, so if you use my links, it's going to support the channel, and that will allow me to continue to try to help you guys make the best music that you're capable of. So if you use any of those links, thank you in advance. So first things first, we need the brains of the operation. The biggest and most important tool when it comes to producing music in this day and age is a computer. Now, when I first started fiddling around with music production, I was using the family PC. We all shared one computer back in the day. Some of you guys might remember that. But when I wanted to take music production a little more seriously, eventually I had to get my own computer, and I got a Mac. Now, there's a lot of people who make music both on Mac and PC, and there's a lot of good arguments for both of them. And my biggest recommendation for you is just start on the computer that you already have. That way you can start producing music and see if it's something that you're actually into before you go investing some serious money in a powerful machine like this. However, if you are looking to buy a computer, I would recommend getting a MacBook and getting one of the models with the M chip. The reason why I recommend the MacBook instead of like the iMac or the Mac Pro or the Mac Studio is because this bad boy is mobile, and it's great to be able to take this with you on a trip, on a vacation, or to a friend's house and be able to work on music everywhere that you go. So that's why I recommend the MacBook. And all of the M computers, meaning the M1, the M2, the M3, and maybe beyond by the time you're watching this, those are all way more powerful than the Intel computers before them. And so for me, it's just a no-brainer. As soon as I got this bad boy, it was an absolute game changer for me. Not only for making music, but even for Photoshop and editing videos and all that kind of stuff too. If you are going to take it seriously, I can't recommend the M models enough. And honestly, at this point, a lot of the M1 MacBooks are much more approachable in terms of price. If you get one of the used ones or refurbished ones, I got this one used on Amazon, and it's an absolute beast. And I got it for way less than it would have been had I bought it new or tried to get like the M3 or something like that. In my opinion, you should get one of the earlier M models and put the extra money that you would normally put to like an M3 into getting an M1 with more RAM and more internal storage and that kind of stuff. And I'll show you guys a quick screenshot of my specs so you know what I'm working with. And this thing, the fans almost never turn on. It's just an absolute beast. I can't recommend it enough. So if you already have a computer, just use that one. If you're gonna get a computer, I'd recommend getting a refurbished M1 MacBook Pro. The more RAM you can afford, the better, but don't stress it too much if it's out of your budget. Okay, so now that we've got a computer, we need a program or software to make music in. My recommendation is Ableton Standard. I've been using it for like, I don't know, 12 years or something, and it's absolutely incredible. Obviously, I'm going to recommend it because I use it. I'm used to it. I can get my ideas coming out of a pair of speakers as fast as possible. But honestly, Logic is great too. It's a bit cheaper, or you can even use something like Pro Tools. There's a lot of options out there. Most of them have a free trial. I know Ableton has a 30-day free trial. So if you haven't committed to a DAW yet, I would really recommend Ableton. I also have tons of videos on Ableton to get you using it like a pro in no time. There's also FL Studio. I feel like I gotta mention it because some people really love that one, but Ableton is my first choice hands down. Okay, so now that we got the brains figured out, let's figure out how we're gonna get sound into the computer in the first place. In order to do that, we need a microphone and we need an interface. A microphone is going to capture the sounds that we make. It's going to bring those sounds into the interface, and the interface is going to get those sounds onto our computer. Now, the most affordable interface I can recommend is called the Scarlett Focusrite. This interface is really well made, and it's going to get the job done for you no problem, especially if you're first starting out. The most affordable mic I'd recommend is called the SM57. Thought that I had one. I have one somewhere in the studio, but all that to say, it's a great mic. Bon Iver used it to record his album For Emma forever ago, which was a hit album. It's just an absolute absolute masterpiece, and he just used one SM57 for the whole album. Just goes to show it's more about what the person is playing or singing than the mic itself. Also, I just had this idea. I don't think I've ever done this before, but if you're watching and you're enjoying this, can you go ahead and just click the like button really quick? I want to see if it actually affects the video's performance. I see all these other YouTubers doing it, but I've personally never asked you guys to do it. So just for experimentation's sake, if you have a second, click it and we'll see if it affects the video at all. I'm honestly more curious than anything else. Okay, so the next tier up when it comes to interfaces is this exact interface right here, and this is the Apollo Twin. This is the interface I've been using for at least the last 7 years, and I don't feel like I've outgrown it. And honestly, the Scarlett will get you pretty far, but this just feels like the obvious next level up in my opinion. I just like the big button on it. I like the interface. I like how everything works. I like that it has ADAT options on the back, which is this optical in thing right here. And that makes it so you can hook up some extra hardware and make it so you have a bunch of extra inputs. And I've never needed to get something else because I haven't outgrown this yet. I don't really record drums, but if I wanted to, I would be able to. It also has great preamps for recording vocals. And yeah, I just can't recommend it enough. I've been really happy with mine. The only thing I've been debating is getting the quad, I think it's called, and then using this one at home and then keeping the quad in the studio. The next tier up when it comes to microphones is going to be the SM7B. Pretty sure it's the most popular podcast mic and probably the most popular studio mic. And in my opinion, it's the GOAT for the price range that it's in. The greatest of all time. It just sounds great on pretty much everything that you use it on. Vocals, guitars, strings, horns, drums, literally everything you use it on. It's got a built-in pop filter. It's pretty darn durable. It's got all the clout from big artists using it. I mean, people like Death Cab for Cutie, My Chemical Romance, John Mayer. I mean, come on, John Mayer. He's a legend. The list goes on, but all that to say, it's a great mic, and if you can afford it, you should get it. If you're wanting to go one more level up, you can get the Studio Standard Neumann U87, which is a great mic. I had that mic for a while. Anything Neumann or Telefunken is built really well. Those are kind of two of the kings in the mic space. AKG is another good one. And honestly, you'll probably be super stoked with any of those mics. But I recently had who I consider a mic expert friend recommend a little something called a Gefell M92.1. He said they're made with original Neumann parts, the original Neumann diaphragm, which was used in those like vintage Neumanns that are like 30 grand, but these ones are a lot more affordable than that. So I've been using that mic for about a month or so, and I'm obsessed. It's so good. Let me grab it. This is what it looks like, and it just sounds absolutely amazing. It's kind of small and cute and adorable, but dang, does it make my voice sound as good as my voice has ever sounded. And if you're looking for an incredible mic that's around like 2 or 3 grand, this to me seems like a forever mic where I probably won't need to get another mic ever, because this one sounds as good as I could ever want a mic to sound. Okay, so now we can get sound into the computer because we have a microphone and we have an interface and we have a computer and we have a DAW to record sound into, and we're all good to go. Now the next realm of things is getting sound out of the computer. And for that, we kind of have 2 main options. The first option is going to be headphones. And once again, the best headphones to start with are the ones that you already have. If you already have a computer and you already have headphones, then just get a 30-day trial of Ableton, watch some of my videos, learn how to produce like a pro, and see if it's something that you're into. When I first started, I had these used Beats headphones. You had to like put batteries in them for them to work. It was just a total nightmare. They were super janky, but they're all I had, and I worked my butt off to make the best music I could, and I was able to build up a following and even go on a US tour playing music that I made out to crowds, all with these crappy Beats headphones. So don't let your headphones be an excuse, but I can definitely say when you are ready to invest in headphones, the Sennheiser HD 300 Pros are absolutely great. I've been using these for years and years, and then I noticed on the Joe Rogan show that people were using them, and a lot of people use them in podcasting now. The low-end response is just incredible, and the mid-range and high-end stuff also sounds pretty darn clear for this price range. And I think you can also get the 280 Pros for about $100 less. I haven't really tested those, so I can't tell you if they're as good, but if you can get the 300 Pros, it's about $200 for those, and they just sound awesome. Even now, if I'm traveling, a lot of times I'll bring those with me just because I know them and I trust them. Now, if you're wanting to go sicko mode and really upgrade, and you got a big budget, these bad boys, the Audazes, are absolutely incredible. I chose these ones, which are the LCD XCs, and I chose the XCs because they have the closed back, and I like to block out all the haters. No, but honestly, I like to block out the background noise. Feels like I can hear everything clear that way, especially if I'm working in like a coffee shop or a loud environment, although I would look ridiculous working with these in a coffee shop. But they sound great. So if you can afford them, in my opinion, I can wholeheartedly recommend them. I love them. It basically feels like having a pair of studio monitors on your head that you can just put in your backpack and take with you on the go and have your studio set up like pretty much almost anywhere. Okay, so those are my headphone recommendations. Use what you already have, or get the Sennheisers, or you can ball out and get the LCDs, which are also incredible. But what about studio monitors? Well, that is a whole other animal. But right before I get into that, if you're learning anything or you're just enjoying the video, I would love for you to consider subscribing, just giving me the chance to help you make the best music that you can possibly make, because that's my goal and it's free to subscribe. So I would love it if you did. Okay, so if you can only choose between studio monitors or headphones, I would recommend getting headphones because they're portable. You can take them on the go. You don't need to worry about treating your room or anything. You just wear your headphones and you make your music. But if you're building out an actual home studio setup, monitors are absolutely incredible to have. And let me give you guys my recommendations based on my experience. But as I do, I got to clarify a couple things. You really have two options for setups with monitors. You can just get the monitors, which is just two speakers, right and left, or you can get the monitors and a dedicated subwoofer as well. A subwoofer plays the really low notes. It's the thing that drives your neighbors crazy. And if you're making super low-end heavy dance music, like dubstep or drum and bass, or even house music, having a sub is super helpful for hearing all that low end. A lot of times you can get away with just monitors and a good pair of headphones. I wouldn't overthink it too much, but for me, a lot of the time I was making dance music, and when I got a sub, it was a lot of fun, although my neighbors didn't love it. Now, the first option I'd recommend for monitors are the KRK Rockets, specifically the Rocket 5s. Now, these guys will run you, I think, about $300 for the pair, which is a pretty darn good deal. And these guys have great low-end response. They're super small, so they're great for like bedroom home studio setups. And these are the ones with the yellow cones. You've probably seen them before. They're super popular in the dance music space. And honestly, they're just really fun to work on. I still think about them sometimes, even though I have these other great monitors. And when I was ready to make the upgrade, the next level up for studio monitors is the Atom A7Xs. I'm not absolutely positive that they make these anymore, but I'll just link the closest thing to them because I think they came up with a better design or something. But these A7Xs I used for a really long time and I loved them. They were super clear and I didn't feel like I needed to outgrow them. And then eventually I did kind of hit a point where I had a bit of a budget and I wanted to improve even past that, and I switched to the PMC Result 6s. And when I got these, it was like hearing music for the first time. Seriously, I remember setting them up. I had my little garage studio at the time. It was like 1,000 degrees in there, and I just piled them on top of some books, and then I just listened to some SZA songs, and I listened to the vocals, and it was like I could just hear every element. So those are the monitors that I currently use right now, and in my opinion, they're just an absolute game changer. They made everything super clear for me, and they really helped me with my mixing, especially when I was comparing it to references and then listening to my mixes, and I can't recommend them enough. And another big thing was I put them on these speaker stands. I'll show a screenshot of the speaker stands. These guys are absolutely beastly, and they actually made such a big difference because I was just hearing what was coming out of the speakers, and I wasn't hearing the speakers vibrating all the stuff that they're on top of, like my desk or anything like that. So it's just another thing to consider, but absolutely not necessary. Just something I wanted to mention. I also really quickly just wanted to cover subwoofers. I've personally been using the same sub for my entire career. I'm pretty sure it's just an M Audio sub that was like $100 or $200, and it does the trick. I love it. It sounds great. You really don't need anything fancy when it comes to subwoofers, but if you do have a budget, you do want to get a sub, your best bet is probably just getting the same brand as your studio monitors. So if you get the Rockets, get a Rocket sub. If you get the Atoms, get an Atom sub, but I wouldn't overthink it too much. I know some people are probably going to get their pitchforks and might be kind of offended by that statement, but honestly, I've worked on great subs, I've worked on cheap subs, and there's not a huge difference. I think what's way more important is getting your room properly treated and the positioning of the speakers and everything in the room. So with these monitor options, we've gone from $300 all the way up to $3,000, and is that worth the price difference for the quality that you get? That really just depends on where you're at in your journey. If you're a hobbyist and you're a songwriter and you're just kind of dabbling in production, then I would go with the Rockets. It's not a very risky investment and they sound good for most of that kind of stuff. However, if you're starting to produce for a living, or if you're starting to mix music for a living, I would definitely go for the Atoms. And if you're an audiophile or you've been at this for a while and you're looking for some premium speakers that make it feel like you're hearing music for the very first time, the PMCs are incredible. Really, really recommend those. But Skrillex made Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites on a pair of Rocket 8s, and that album is like the best dance music album of all time. time, or certainly I would say probably the most influential EDM album ever made. And the reason I bring that up is to say that the best studio monitors for you are the ones that you're going to use a lot and get to know like the back of your hand. So just decide on a reliable option and listen to a lot of music on them. And that way, when you're working on your music, you can hold it up against the best of the best, and you can actually hear the differences, and you can improve your music. And when your song sounds good and the mix is good, you know that it's actually good because you know the speakers. Okay, so once you have a microphone, you can record sounds into your computer through the interface. And then once you have your headphones, you can get sounds out of your computer and into your ears. This is the music making circuit, okay? That's why I laid it out like this. And this is the most basic setup possible to record and produce music. Of course, this setup has a fancy interface and fancy headphones, but I gave you more affordable options. And also, I want to say this really quick too. If you make dance music, like you make EDM, you really just need a computer and headphones. You don't need an interface. You don't need a microphone. You can just make sample-based music and use virtual synthesizers and program everything. That's what I did for years when I started. I was able to tour a lot of the world and have a successful artist project. So yeah, that's just some food for thought. You really just need a computer and headphones. And if that's where you're at, just get Ableton and then go to my Start Here playlist and I'll teach you everything else you need to know. All right, so I said earlier that I was going to go over a few things that weren't absolutely necessary, but can really upgrade a home studio setup. And the first thing I'm going to recommend is a MIDI keyboard. These are super fun to work on, especially if you have a piano background or if you just want to play with some chord progressions or figure out a melody. And my first recommendation is the Novation Launch Key 49. This was a keyboard that I actually won for a remix contest that Beatport had. And so I got it for free, but I used it for years. It totally did the trick, so I can recommend it for you guys. You are going to need to get a sustain pedal because that way you can play it like an actual piano. That makes a huge difference. But if you are wanting to upgrade and you're looking for another good MIDI keyboard option that's weighted so it really feels like you're playing a piano, I got this Studio Logic one here. I'll show a little B-roll so you can see what it looks like. And that one is absolutely a joy to play. The keys are really weighted, so you really have to like play it. I don't know, it just has a certain feeling, and I would definitely recommend it if you have the budget for it. And it has a bunch of other options that I don't even use. I just keep it simple with a MIDI keyboard and use it to play in chords mostly. Really, when getting a MIDI keyboard, you just want to consider how many of the keys you're actually going to be using, like if you have a really advanced piano background. And you also want to consider if you want the keys weighted or not to feel more like a piano or more like a synthesizer. You can always start small and upgrade later, so don't overthink it. My next upgrade recommendation would be getting an external monitor so you can see Ableton or whatever your digital audio workstation is on a bigger screen. More inspiring to work on. You can see more stuff at the same time. You can see the details easier. It's just a better experience in my opinion. I also prefer working with a mouse. I know that once you get used to the trackpad, it's hard to venture into mouse territory, but I can officially say now that I have this amazing mouse, it's actually harder to go back to the trackpad once you're used to a mouse. And once you get used to a mouse, you can actually just work faster. Now, I don't know if people have tested this, but just in my experience, I can work faster on a mouse. I can move the mouse around the screen faster. So yeah, I used a cheap Dell mouse for years and it was great. Now I use this Logitech mouse. I'll put the link for it if I can find it. But yeah, back to monitors. The first one that I used for a long time and I still use for some stuff is the BenQ, BenQ.
BenQ.
I don't know what the model is, but I can just look it up. I'll try to figure that out. But I bought it from my friend for like $100. BenQ makes great monitors. You don't need to get anything fancy. It's just nice being able to see Ableton on a bigger screen. Now, since then, because I do YouTube videos and I want them to look good, I edited them for a long time. I like photography and that kind of stuff. I got the Mac Studio display, and that's going to run you $1,600, which is pretty darn expensive. I know that Apple charges a premium on everything that they sell, but since I've been working on it for a couple years now, I feel like I can't live without it, and it's so fun and inspiring to work on, especially because it seamlessly integrates with a Mac, so you can change the brightness on it really easily. You can plug a bunch of your hard drives and all that stuff in the back of it, and there's just one USB-C that plugs right into your computer and hooks your computer up to everything. Big fan. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And those are really the only two monitors that I've used extensively and can recommend. I know LG makes an ultrafine monitor. A lot of people love those. I didn't really love it that much. I used it for a while, but there was like this little line going down the middle of mine, so I just returned it and I ended up getting the Mac Studio. Okay, lastly, I just really quickly want to discuss room treatment. When it comes to room treatment, hands down, the biggest bang for your buck is getting a rug. Seriously, if you don't have carpet in your room, get a rug and it will change everything. When you're working on your studio monitors or you're recording with your microphone, you just want sound to go right from the speakers directly into your ears, or right from your voice directly into the microphone, and you don't want it to be reflecting off of surfaces and going to the microphone. You want the pure, unadulterated sound. And a lot of sound will bounce off of the floor if it's not covered by a rug. Now, I could easily get into a whole separate video discussing room treatment, but really Lastly, I'll just give you guys one quick tip. You want to make an equilateral triangle between your speakers and your head. So the distance from your head to one speaker is the same distance from one speaker to the next speaker and from that speaker to your head. It's all an equilateral triangle. And also ideally you want to be sitting 38% into the room. So if you picture a rectangle and you draw 38% down, that's where you want your head to be, and then you can draw that equilateral triangle. I got really into all this stuff when I was building out this studio that I'm in right now, and it actually did make a pretty big difference. But yeah, just basically do your best to cover up any reflective surfaces. You can even buy those cheap sound pad things on Amazon, but honestly, just get a rug. It's a great place to start. You can always upgrade after that. Okay, how are you doing? I know I just threw a ton of information at you, but whenever I'm looking to upgrade my life, I love going on YouTube and finding an expert who knows what they're talking about and getting good recommendations from someone else who's been in my shoes, and they can help guide me in the right direction. I know how to help. I've been in your shoes, and I really hope I gave you some good ideas for how to upgrade your home studio setup, or even how to start one from the ground up if you've never done this before. And the truth is, for some of you guys out there, you don't need a studio upgrade. You need an upgrade for your production and your songwriting. Sometimes people will blame their home studio for why their music doesn't sound good, when in reality, if you took a pro and you put them in that home studio, they can make incredible music on the exact same setup. Now, for those of you guys who want to improve your production and your songwriting, I have a paid program, and in that I teach everything from writing your first song all the way through to mixing and mastering a full-length album if you want to do that, and I can help you out and walk with you every single step of the way. So if that sounds like something that you're into, I'll put a link in the top of the description for that, and you can check out part of the course for free. I also just included another course with that's all about electronic dance music, and the people who have joined that have been raving about it, and I'm super stoked because I put so much into it. Altogether, it's like 150 videos, and if you like my YouTube videos, you're gonna love these. So just go ahead and check out the link if you're interested. Okay, whew. I gotta say, it's like 80 degrees in this studio. I try to run the AC, but I can't do it while I'm recording the video. It's too loud, so I'm just melting in here. Ugh. Okay, thank you for spending some time with me today. I genuinely appreciate it. If you have any comments or feedback, just comment down below. I try to read the comments and respond when I can. And more than anything, remember to stop making excuses and start making music. Okay, cheers.